ambient music too while I'm eating. Like I never did this before. It's like this new. I don't know. It's like a COVID-19 thing. So I've listened to like a lot of Mogwai and giving Aphex Twin a whirl, stuff like that.
Okay.
And, yeah,
right.
It helps the focus a bit.
Wow, Aphex Twin.
Yeah.
That's a funny juxtaposition. I'm just thinking like, yeah. Yeah, that stuff's great though. What Mogwai album?
The only one I've kind of gotten hung up on it because I really like it is Come On Die Young.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I don't know that one very well. I'm a rock action man.
Okay.
I think that's what the album's called.
I'll give that one a listen next.
Yeah, that's solid. I mean, it's all pretty solid, but
yeah.
Yeah. I don't have that here. Let's see. All right, so you selected the Uzumaki.
I did.
Or should I have Uzumaki?
I think it's Uzumaki, yeah.
Yeah. I'd read it before. The Spiral. Is that the full description? I thought it was just Spiral or The Spiral.
On the edition I have, the English translation is Spiral into Horror. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so you I'm going to say that you have a little bit of an affinity for sort of Lovecraftian themes and a particular enjoyment of cosmicism and whatnot. So I assume that's what motivated this selection.
100%. And we should make it clear that we picked this before COVID-19 broke. The experience of
yes.
reading it during this time was a little like, after I read the second volume, I just had to put it aside and just kind of take a nap for a while. And I just couldn't, I had to force myself to get back into the third book, which I love. I mean, the third one's fantastic, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's strange. I talked to some people and, they're going back to fiction, like I am and others are. And but they're choosing like apocalyptic themes.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. And I can't get into that right now. I mean, I did read Blood Meridian, but that's not explicitly an end of the world story. I mean, it might as well have been. But apocalypse and tribulation and all that shit doesn't really interest me right now.
I'm feeling the same. Yeah. I mean, I'm open to more, I enjoy reading all the time, but yeah, my taste for it, like that's normally where I'd be. And now I'm just kind of like, I'm easing off of it.
Yeah.
So that's all right.
Well, because I read Eleanor Davis, she put out a story called a graphic novel comic, The Hard Tomorrow. And it's, it's a little bit in the future, and there's the effects of climate change and talk of the surveillance state and economic anxieties and undercurrents of militarism in America. And it just seems so naive now as a glance into the future. I don't, not that the story was apocalyptic in any respect, but I just, the future is being written right now, and whatever apocalypse anyone was imagining is just an old story. I mean, we've seen it a million times before.
Yeah, it's tough. I find, I don't want to say it. I don't like using the word of, like, when people gesture to this as apocalypse, like it's overblown, but it's definitely it's something. It's definitely a crisis. It's and it does feel like at this time, like, yeah, there's a place for those stories, and it's about imagining the future ultimately, and using the future to imagine the present, and it just feels like there's a break or a disconnect right now.
Yeah. Oh, dang. There was a thought in all of that. Oh, well. I lost it. Go on.
I was going to say the nice thing about Uzumaki is that you don't, like, with this is Lovecraft, and it's everything that he inspired is commonly called cosmic horror. And the nice thing about that is that it's really about nihilism. It's really about the insignificance of humanity. So you can still there's nothing that's going to trump that in terms of
that's true. Yeah, this is pretty hardcore, and it's not this isn't this isn't apocalyptic. It's horror.
Yeah,
It's not the end of the world. It's kind of jumping right to the end. It might be even the opposite, just the horror of the eternal recurrence and the never ending.
definitely.
Uh,
That's a good thing to the eternal recurrence is a really good thing to touch on.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I had read this before. I got myself a nice hard copy as a gift, and it was nice to come back to it because Junji Ito, can fucking draw. Holy shit!
Yeah,
This book's amazing. Like as cool as any of these themes and ideas are, Ito sells it.
he's a
He
fucking
you know he
master.
Yeah, yeah. This is tops. Well, it's not tops, but it's
I think it, I don't
yeah.
think that's I don't think that's superlative. I actually think like as I was reading this, I thought if I had to give people any justification for comics, this would be among the things that I would kind of throw at them.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty fair. It's a solid piece. It has excellent sort of cartooning, and at the same time, realistic backgrounds and that sort of thing. Uh, Panel arrangements, blah blah blah. The But at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I guess I would show this to others as a justification for comics. I was going to say something else that I'm sure we'll get into eventually. Um, so it's basically the story of a.
Sorry, can I, before you get
Sure.
to it, I just wanted to say like it really hit me this time that
Yeah.
like he's one guy doing both the story and art, and
Mhm.
I don't like. I mean, yeah, it's like Frank Miller does. Like there are people who do that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It just really like I just kept like being in awe of that.
Yeah. Throughout, it is a singular vision, and yeah, he's doing everything. Like you're definitely right to say that, and because a lot of these it's not always the case by a long shot, but a lot of manga, my understanding is, like they're production houses. They're the products of production houses.
Yeah.
Um, I think some people are able to hold it down themselves, but I wonder even if Ito has assistants to put out this much work, which wouldn't take away from like the singularity of it at all. And you wouldn't say that about Tezuka. Um, and say that his work is not singular, but for sure he had assistants. Um, so I do wonder if there's more of a collaboration here than is presented, but I doubt it. Um, just given the consistency of it.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, yeah, I guess if you had somebody doing like some of the standard, like just the day-to-day panels, and then you really put your touch on the horrific images that
Or
are
even,
his signature.
or they do the. I'm just like maybe they do the inking. Like maybe this one panel they do such and such. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that go into the art process, but I don't know. It feels to me like a singular piece, and it probably is, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So it's the story of Kiri. What's your Goshima, and she's a denizen. I don't know. She lives in a town where she grew up. Kurutsucho.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, and apparently, this really gives it away. It's called Black Vortex Town. That's the translation that Wikipedia has. So if that's totally wrong, listeners, then. But I was like, Jesus, how did that changes the whole. That kind of changes a lot about it when the first line is, "I'm from Black Vortex Town."
Come on down and move to Black Vortex
Town. I'm gonna go up. I would like to share with you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was gonna say the strange events that took place there. The spiral obsession. And she sure does explain the strange events that happen at Black Spiral Town or Black Vortex Town. What Which ones jumped out to you the most?
I at one point, so here's I maybe call it hubris, but at one point I actually, I guess just in a mental exercise, I sat down and thought about how you'd make a movie out of this.
Okay.
And
Yep.
so I figured like the first 4 chapters you really need, because that's the kind of family saga.
Yep.
You get Shuichi, her best friend. You get
Hmm.
like what happens to his parents, and sort of like her dad becoming mad and infected with the spiral. And
Hmm.
I kind of realized that you cut out a lot of the middle. Like a lot of the middle is kind of filler. Um, but as you get towards the end, like the final chapters are just mind-blowingly good. And so, yeah, I think they're about like the first 4 chapters, Spiral
Hmm.
Obsession 1 and 2, the Scar, the Firing Effect, and then like once the town really becomes cut off from the mainland,
Hmm.
from then on, it's all gold.
Yeah.
What about you?
Uh, a lot of it, and this is what I was going to say earlier. I think the middle of it, and you sort of alluded to this, is just a little flat. Like because, but not flat. It just, and this isn't necessarily a criticism. It just kind of feels weird as you're reading it. But these like truly disturbing things will happen in this town. I guess what jumps out to me is the individuals turning into snails.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, and just the way that really slow guy just turns around the corner and looks at the class.
Oh, he's all like
Um,
dripping and slimy and weird. Yeah, that's great.
yeah, he hasn't turned into a snail yet. He's not even close, but I'm just trying to find his name. Yeah, he comes in. Oh God, yeah, Katayama. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're soaking wet again. Why don't you buy it? Yeah, and he's just Anyway, it's just like but at the end, everybody, the teacher turns into a snail. There's snails on the side of the school, like human snails, let's call them.
Yeah.
And then, but nothing happens. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't register as a real event. Like life goes on very normally after that,
Yeah, that's
uh,
true. Although
which is not. Oh, go on.
there is a moment that I kind of thought that was a fun chapter in the middle of things, and it's got this moment where Katayama like turns into the snail person, and the principal says like, well, we got to do something about this snail person crawling on the school. Call his parents. He's so fucking matter of fact about it, and then
Right.
it's like somebody tells him that the kid hasn't been home days. He's like, well, he was probably just hiding in the school walls. But it gives you the sense that like people who are administrators or like the town founders or whatever, like they deal with this shit all the time, and it's just like oh shit, one of these things again.
Probably I've seen it once, I've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
Well, there is okay, one of them laid eggs, and then like his first reaction.
Oh yeah.
It's clear these two boys are no longer remotely human. They're mollusk people. Mollusk people? Snails are mollusks, so, and then he starts like smashing the eggs.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, unnatural. These creatures mustn't breed. He kind of, um, I mean, maybe that's one of the first positive. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but that's one of the first positive. Like, I'm going to deal with this horror actions that takes place. And
Right.
as a consequence, he himself transforms. Um,
Yeah. For that reason, I kind of look at it as like over and over we see like there's this theme of like it's almost like an epistemological theme where like how do you retain your sanity when everything else is like degrading around you and when everyone else is kind of succumbing to these assumptions. And that's
mhm.
one of those moments where he succumbs to the revulsion, and in that moment he's kind of trapped in this sort of spiral. um, and
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's on, and also the bully too. Like it's almost like what's the kid's name again? I didn't write that down.
Katayama.
Yeah, his bully kind of like has been tormenting him, and because of his like, I'll call it an attraction. It's like this sort of like
Mhm.
they're bound together, and he becomes a snail person too, and then they get it on and produce those eggs. So
Right.
it's
Oh,
like
yeah,
once you
that's
slip
right.
into that like that fascination with the snail people, you kind of are trapped in the spiral as well.
Right, and we see that later with people start eating them, and
That's so fucked. Yeah.
yeah, and transforming into them. Uh,
That's such a good callback. Like when because it just disappears, and it's like a lot of things in the middle are one-offs. That's what it is. It's like they're episodic. You
yeah,
can't blame he's got a good thing going. You want to extend it a bit, I'm sure. Like he's he has some ideas, and like there are good moments in all of them.
oh
But
for sure.
yeah, but that's callback to the snail thing when people start eating them. And there's one scene where they come across Shuichi and Kiri come across the people around the campfire, and like the smoke of it is spiraling upwards, and it's just like that image alone is terrifying. Then when you see them like actually like have the snail thing split open, and its skull looks almost human, but it's slightly deformed. There's just something about that that's so fucking creepy.
Yeah, and he's got and this is not a surprise to say, but he really does have an eye for like what's going to be because in comics, you don't get to choose your shot like in cinema where you get to like you're shooting a scene. In comics, you have to pick that one image, and and it's got to be, and it has to encapsulate not just a sequence, but the moments between the sequences, or the moments between the moments. And yeah, he just has a wonderful. I'm not going to say. I won't say wonderful. He has a terrible imagination, a frightful imagination, and he knows exactly which image to pick.
That's so true. And actually, I wanted to talk about that too, because I find like I love horror, and I find horror comics in general are usually kind of disappointing to me. And I think it is because of that. Like, not many people know how to I don't know, hold their cards close to their chest or whatever. But like he absolutely understands and exploits the potential of the medium. Like he just shows you the template to do it, and because his images are so fucking horrific, and like honestly, as I'm flipping through, like when I come across something, like you have that sense you want to turn the page and get away from it, but you're fascinated and held at the same time. But because whatever he's planning is going to be good, like it's building up to something. All the tension, like whatever, when he hides things, when he conceals and kind of evades, your sense of dread just increases.
Yeah, I'm looking at just while you were talking about flipping through and finding images, there's that kid that's bugging Kiri. Wants to go out with her. He runs in front of that car.
Oh, fuck,
my love for you will stop this car, and then like she screams, and then it's just like half a page, and he's all wrapped around the wheel. Yeah, and it's just awful.
It is.
But in interview, Ito will say, like he says, sorry, that I'm not a movie. I don't have music. I don't have, camera effects or anything like that. I don't have as much to work with. And so all I can do is just go hard. He doesn't say it like that, but just like pick the most horrific thing that I can think of and go there.
He's fucking good at it.
Yeah. He, so yeah. And then another scene, it just zooms in, and I think Japanese manga, and I've talked about this with Lone Wolf and Cub with James, and I'm sure other books as well. They have room to breathe. Like a comic like this can't exist here in North American comics, because he'll get 20, 30, 40 pages for a chapter. So he can spend 2 pages, 3 pages teasing and working out, and setting up a pace for a proper payoff.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because one thing I've kind of noticed in this, they don't do a lot of. Maybe it's just he doesn't do a lot of. I wouldn't claim to be an expert on manga, but from what I've read, I've not noticed a tendency to do splash pages, but he uses those images, and he'll kind of you'll have a lot of tight panels, like just standard rectangular square panels together. But when he gets to the image that he wants you to see, he'll blow that out, and so the panel will take up like a larger chunk, and it really kind of magnifies things. And he does that really well.
Yeah, particularly at the end when she wakes up in the snail city.
Oh fuck yeah.
Um, and that's and that's your Cthulhu moment though. That's
Yes.
your like the
That's Lovecraft, like
majesty.
almost better than Lovecraft.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's non if you're gonna find your non-Euclidean geometry or whatever, like you found it. Just like in these snake-like bodies at the bottom turned to stone. Um, yeah, I'm trying to find some of the others, but yeah, when he or even full page, maybe not. He doesn't always use splash page in the sense of like 2 pages,
Mhm.
but he'll pull out and show you like with the mushrooms in
Oh
the
god,
bed. Yeah.
that's that. For the most part, I'd say that like he does not delve into anything. Mm, I don't know, like over the top or exploitative. That's the
Mhm.
one chapter where I felt that maybe it went a little far for my taste.
Yeah, well, it actually doesn't really sit well in the rest of the story
Yeah.
because where's the spiral in that?
Yeah, and the
Um,
talking babies are just fucking weird. Like it's like so ridiculous. Like they're like,
yeah,
oh, I want to go back into mother, which I guess we should like. It's in the hospital. Her cousin has given birth, and these babies have been fed on blood because the mothers have been
because
like
the mothers
drilling.
were using drills.
Yeah, it's using drills to like drink people's blood.
Yeah.
Horrific enough. And but then, so once the babies are born, they're perfectly healthy, but they're clearly training people. And the doctor is he's taking care of them, is using their umbilical placenta to grow mushrooms that he's feeding to people and making them all fucked up. And yeah, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, but and this gets to what you were saying earlier. Like it just, I guess it gets back to what both of us were saying earlier.
Yeah,
Like it just kind of it's episodic. It just sits there. There's no callback to it. If
yeah.
I don't seem to recall.
No, not really. It's a
And then
two-parter, but it doesn't really
yeah,
go anywhere.
and then it's also I'm not gonna it's not derivative because it's fucking awful and only Ito could probably really do it. Um, but yeah, it's just like it's blood crazed women in a hospital and blood crazed pregnant women. You do like it's a vampire story.
Yes.
And it sits there weird, but I'm not going to fault him for making a really awesome weird story.
No.
You know, um, but maybe this is one of the this is one. I'd say this is a flaw in it. This particular story, even though it's very excellent and definitely stands out. Um, and it's another thing where the town doesn't respond to what would have like it's not a large town and the hospital just had like a bunch of murders and then she just leaves and she's so serene.
Kiri?
Yeah, Kiri, yeah.
Kiri
And the
does
town,
not fucking get it for the longest time. Like, if you see a
yeah,
spiral, get the fuck out of there.
yeah. I just think it's part of the makeup of the town is that like no one notices the horror. Uh, it's always been there.
Yeah. Which could be, like, it's hard to say because it's not really developed a lot, but it could be part of, like, a social commentary, too, where it's just sort of like, bad things happen all the time and we just turn a blind eye and deny and go on with our lives because what else can you do.
In places like schools and in places like hospitals.
Yeah.
And in places like homes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like domestic stories and abuse and that sort of thing. And, we just say that's too bad, and we kind of go on with our lives.
Yeah, you definitely get the sense of if what we're saying is a stretch, I don't necessarily think it is, but the idea of social commentary is very clear in the story of that of the girl with the spirally hair, the two girls who
Right. The hair showdown.
The Scar, yeah.
Oh, the Scar, yeah, that one's good.
Yeah. Where she, the girl's obsessed with getting the attention of boys and that sort of thing, and she becomes hypnotic due to the spiral, and then it Yeah.
That's. Sorry, you finish your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna like it kind of plays into gender stereotypes saying it out loud, in the sense that like she and the other Akiri, sort of against her will almost. Oh no, that's not in the Scar. Where's the one where the Scar is maybe part of it as well? But there's one where there's a show off with showdown with two girls.
Yeah, that one's called Medusa, Chapter 6.
Medusa, right. Either way, I think the same kind of dynamic is at play where I'm not going to say there's necessarily a hostility to women, but there's like there's a criticism of women in this, in their like their hypnotic and false and destructive nature. The femme fatale.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say about Scar, that is a Tomy story, and like that's. Do you know? Have read that or?
Oh no, I don't know. No.
Okay, because Tomy is Junji Ito's other like magnus opus kind of thing.
Oh shit. Okay, it's a Tomy. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like another person. Okay.
So she specifically, like, the whole story there is that she's this like femme fatale who goads men into murdering her, and then by being murdered, she replicates. It's super fun, but also quite good. Like there's some issues, it's problematic, but it's good. It's really good horror.
Yeah, and it's also horror. I mean, like problematic and horror go hand in hand. You can just read, Men, Women, and Chainsaws for that.
Yeah.
Did you ever read that?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, that's great. I read it recently for the first time. It's very interesting. I mean, it's from 1987 or something like that. So, for anyone listening who's up on their sort of feminist film criticism, they're probably shaking their head. But it's not my forte, and so
I'll put it on my list. That sounds good.
Yeah. So anyway,
but that one thing I wanted to say about like Ito's approach to horror, and particularly in this, and I think consistently, he'll give you the visceral, like he'll give you just the really fucked up like body horror thing and that sort of thing, but it's almost always followed up with this like gesture towards something like deeply unsettling, where like reality is being pulled out from under you. And that's, I think, one of the most impressive things to me. In the Scar specifically, I had a little note about that, I think. I think it was just the moment of, so like it has a really fucked up image where like the scar in her forehead, which has always been with her, and it's always attracted boys, but under the influence of this town, she's like a transfer student, and it starts digging into, like, starts basically consuming her head, so that she has this kind of like spiral, like cutting into her flesh, and it just keeps growing and growing until like Kiri's outside, like just kind of runs into her. The girl has like a hat on, and her back's to you, and something bad's gonna happen. And when she takes off the hat, she just says like, Kiri, I don't feel very well. I feel strange. My right eye, I can't seem to focus. And then when she takes off the hat, like basically her head's carved away, and like her eye is sitting on the top of the spiral, and it gets pulled in, and it's so fucking disgusting. But just that like, because she's been malevolent, malicious through this story, but that moment of confusion, and like just like be like, not suddenly know that madness of not knowing where you are, or what you're doing, or what's happening to you, like really, like it just elevates the whole thing.
Yeah, and you do get like she becomes obsessed as well by about Suichi, because he's not into her.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, or am I? Okay, I'm not sure if I was okay.
Because he's fucked up by that point. Because I think, at that point, both of his parents are dead in horrific ways.
Yeah, and he's like, "Get away from me! Never bring her back!" And she's like, "Oh, I want him." But it's and I'm looking at that image right now, and it's like the sound effect as the eye is being sucked in over 4 panels is like, it's like, slur.
Yeah.
Like it's Jesus. Of course she screams and hides against the wall. Again, he just picks that image, and then she implodes on herself, without leaving a trace behind. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's great.
Yeah. We haven't even touched on like the opening or like Shuichi's domestic problems. Like, so I think the really interesting thing about it, you said you have the hardcover edition, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do you have the quote from Warren Ellis on yours?
Oh no.
Okay.
So back or front?
Back, but mine is like I bought these like 10 years ago, and they're like 3 different volumes. So
okay, all right.
Complete. But he says, and I think this is a perfect description of it. He says, 200 pages of complete bloody lunacy. From a simple, almost funny idea, Uzumaki achieves moments that are seriously disturbing. Tell me the last time a book disturbed you. When You Give Up by Uzumaki. That's perfect. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but it is such a silly idea, like, essentially. But he sells it so well.
Oh, that actually that'll bring us back to the idea of social commentary. And now this is only something that I'd read, and I don't understand it because I also am not steeped in Japanese culture. But apparently, like the spiral, even in manga, in like romance manga and that sort of thing, is well thought of and is a common technique. And the origin of this story, Ito says, is from looking at those spirals in those contexts and then wanting to sort of subvert it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And if, taking that context, like I don't know what his other work is like. But at the center of this is family. At the center of this is boy meets girl. It's very, yeah.
The final images are a romantic image that's like hellish, but
yes, yeah.
Forever, but
yeah. And this is I guess in their terms seinen manga, boy related manga, made like as a perversion of what did I say, of shonen manga. I think the girls manga has its own category, shonen. It's as if he's it's very I guess there's a gendered reading there. He's taking a female related thing and making it male in some sense.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any validity to that idea at all. It just that just came out of my brain right now.
That does make some sense. But I mean, it is too, like, even on its own terms, as a metaphor, it becomes a metaphor for obsession, for and like things from the spiral feed upon itself. So it's like it's a self-consuming thing, and this town is self-consuming. Like he just takes every possible association, any sort of way that you could use the idea of a spiral, and just like wrings everything out of it, and it's so good.
Yeah, I early on in the story, I was like, this is the horror of the Fibonacci sequence. In the sense that, like that the Fibonacci sequence is supposedly the mathematics of the spiral, and it can be found, throughout nature. There's a whole book on it. And it just, that's basically the exercise in my mind, what Ito was performing here. Because like I'm thinking, getting back to that guy who gets hit by the car, he turns into a monster because like the spring of the car gets lodged in his body.
Yeah.
And many of the first stories are really like just about pointing out where spirals are in the world and where they might exist, and then making those spaces of horror. And that's the game that he plays for the first little while. And I think the middle is a little weaker because he stops playing that game, and then he gets back to it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
When I think of this story, I really think of that. Like, I think you nailed it when you said the family saga. That the 2 opening chapters are just they're so amazing, and they like the Shuichi. So like you kind of alluded to this, but Shuichi's dad becomes upset. He's a spiral enthusiast, like, and like, so I guess Shuichi has been going to school outside of the town. So when he comes back, like when he kind of, in the opening panels, he kind of realizes that something weird is going on in the town and kind of tells Kiri about it. And he's kind of like alluding to the fact that his dad's becoming obsessed. And the dad, he goes and he wants, like, he's just like fascinated by spirals ever. He starts staring at a snail, just like in an alley. And Shuichi just kind of Kiri just kind of laughs it off and says, that's silly. Kind of like taking that audience expectation of like, oh, what's this idea? Like, that's weird. But then he just kind of, Ito comes right at you with the dad commissions this black spiral from Shuichi's dad, who is a potter or ceramicist. And and then so Shuichi's mom gets involved. It does basically the spiral equivalent of flushing the dad's drugs down the toilet. Like, she just like takes the spiral collection and gets rid of it.
Right.
And he just decides, like, okay, I can express the spiral in my own body.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh shit! Here's one of those 2-page spreads right now, where the dad's all curled up in that I don't know, vat that he had delivered.
Yeah, and he's boneless and just like bloated, and it's like such a shocking image. But again, like I was saying, like immediately after you get that, but then immediately after, look up in the sky, and there's a kind of splash page of the.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That's like spilling, and it's just this giant black spiral in the sky. It's terrifying.
Yeah, in the you probably don't have this. I might be wrong, but in this hardcover edition, there's an extra story, a lost chapter.
Oh, do you have that?
You do have, okay.
The radio signal, like the telescope one?
Yes, yeah. And the spiral, the galaxy, essentially. I'm kind of glad they left it out, because it's a little too, even more than the other stories I was kind of complaining about. Kind of, I don't know, it doesn't fit well.
I agree.
Yeah, so they were wise to cut it out. But anyway, I think about the comparison between the spiral up in the universe, which itself is horrific because it fills the sky, but this achieves the same function. The smoke in the sky.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say it's like a galaxy. I wasn't going to say anything clever.
No, and it's blotting out. It's a barrier now between the town and the rest of the world. It's hanging over. You can't see past it. It's such an impactful image.
Yeah.
And his shading, like his, when he really wants to, like he just goes nuts with like shading and cross hatching, and you just get like, it looks so disordered.
Yeah. And it's a good, like, when he goes into that mode, it's an excellent contrast against, because in that same image, the 2-page spread of the spiral in the sky, there's some panels along the bottom, but it's largely a 2-page spread. You can see, I guess it's Kiri's face, and she's sweating and she's concerned, but it's in a slightly different style. The contrast is just effective. And you see this in manga from time to time, where either the background is realistically rendered and the characters are cartoons, or vice versa. And that's kind of what goes on here. Yeah. Anyway, he could do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then the next one, where I really started to think that the exercise was just looking for spirals in life. The lady, he looks at he's in the doctor's office and he's with his mom, and he looks at the body, because his mom's ripped off her fingernails.
Yeah.
Her fingertips. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's just trying to get rid of all the spirals in her body, and he sees the anatomy chart. And he sees, there's a spiral in the ear, the cochlea, and I don't know. It's just, it's a good gag. On the one hand, it's a good gag. On the other, like, it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, and it's played for comedy a bit too, like where they're kind of like, it's that sort of sitcom moment where they're like trying not to let somebody see something, and they're kind of like positioning their bodies to block out the view.
Yeah. I'm glad I took that down. Like
Yeah.
it's like the doctor like listened to him, uh, which is fair because she was talking about spirals. All he had to do was really like, by the way, yeah. But I guess one of the things that and it's not necessarily a problem because this is definitely this comic is an experience, and it's it's a spiral into terror, and but at the end of the day, I don't know what to. It seems to end, and then I don't know what to do with it, and I guess that's a Lovecraftian thing where you're shown something. It's inexplicable. You can't get around it. It's omnipotent, and the characters are succumb to it, and there doesn't appear to be any reason for the event to have occurred.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do with that after. And maybe this is you can't extrapolate from that. So in a sense, it feels very contained, as a type of story, which is ironic because it's about the cosmos. Like it's about everything being so big, and for me, sometimes that feels very small.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's the limitation, even within Lovecraft's own work, where he couldn't really get past writing basically the same sort of story over and over again, and he felt some boredom and frustration with that later in his life. But so here's a description of a definition of cosmic horror, and I think it gets right at it.
Okay.
So it's the fear and awe we feel when confronted by phenomena beyond our comprehension, whose scope extends beyond the narrow field of human affairs and boasts of cosmic significance. So basically, it's nihilism. Like it's telling you that like we mean ultimately nothing in the grand scheme of things, and it really is hard to then take a humanistic message from that, right? And it basically questions the idea like, does will matter? Do we even have it? And that's something you see, like, they try to escape, but they get caught in a time loop. I think at the beginning, if she listened to Shuichi and he said like, let's get out of here, and he was able to go between towns. So I guess if they had done it right away, they could have. But
yeah, that was a moment. Yeah, but I mean that's your typical horror thing. No one listens to him, and
yeah.
he's getting sucked in as part of his family. Yeah, and she. Oh, go on.
No, you go on. I was going to take a complete detour.
Oh, she, she, like the schools, like the hospitals, like everybody else, has within her, like some sort of blinder that allows her to accept the horror as reality.
Yeah. She's a little bit, I guess she kind of learns as she goes, but it's really just dumb luck that she survives many of the encounters, because even with her, when she gets into the hair battle, like, she tries to cut it off, but it's, I forget why she's able to walk away where her rival.
Oh, because Shuichi jumps at her with some scissors in hand,
right,
and saves her. Yeah. He gets all wrapped up, but then he doesn't give up, and he cuts his way out. That's the moment of bonding between them, I guess. He cuts her bald. It's weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. That's such a trope, and I don't know why. I would love to know why, but like in like Japanese horror, the image of like the hair gone out of control. There are a lot of ghost stories that take that idea. And maybe it's just a classic folktale, but
actually, I didn't think about it, but yeah, she has long hair at the beginning of the story, and then like after chapter 6, she has very short hair all throughout this story. She becomes sort of. Yeah, I don't know. She changes as an individual. No one else does.
She does, but in a very negative, just like a downward spiral sort of way. He's fucked up.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, what keeps that guy going?
Yeah. I was gonna ask when we were talking about this sort of like the limitations of this mode. Have you ever read Thomas Ligotti?
No, I haven't. Okay. Oh wait, is this is this the conspiracy guy? The conspiracy against all mankind?
Yes, he did write that.
Not in terms of conspiracy theory, but I mean like he wrote a book that has that title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He writes very much in that mode. Like he's like sort of the heir apparent to Lovecraft in
Okay.
yeah, he's really good, but like he takes
Mm.
it in a very strongly nihilistic direction, and
Okay.
there's almost a philosophy behind his nihilism. Not that I like subscribe to this at all. I think it's I can't get behind that, but it
Yeah.
is interesting, and he's at least tried to kind of give it some underpinning of he's thought it through.
Yeah. Back to the Warren Ellis connection. I learned about that book and that guy from one of Warren Ellis's newsletters. But sadly, that's almost the extent of what I know about it. Other than, does it come up in, what was that? We talked about it briefly, that 3-part philosophy of horror series. What was the first one? I had read like a good chunk of it.
I know what you mean. The in the dust of this planet, or is that
yes, in the dust of this planet.
Yeah.
I
talk about him a bit.
Yeah, I feel that's another place where his those thoughts came up.
He influenced True Detective too, like the sort of this is the first season, like the sort of
mm-hmm.
The villain in it. I barely remember it actually, but I remember like that's where I first learned about him.
Right. Yeah, maybe that was one of the things that was in the air as well. Yeah, fuck. What didn't True Detective borrow from? Did you ever read any articles that sort of do a panel to screen, like sort of a side by side with The Invisibles and a lot of Alan Moore's work?
Oh no, I haven't.
Yeah, just kind of look it up. A lot, like he took some stuff off the back of the truck of some Morrison and some Alan Moore. Even at the end, like the very end, where like he's talking about the stars, it's almost a quote from Top 10. Yeah. And then anyway, yeah. So that's anyway. That's neither here nor there. But cosmic horror is definitely in strangely True Detective.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to. Getting back to the quote that you read, does this story ever hint, or does even Lovecraft hint to cosmic significance? Like, I don't know, maybe read to me the definition again.
Sure. Because
there was, like, as you were saying it, I was just like, I don't know if any of these stories ever actually do the thing that you just said.
It's sort of the opposite. It's that, like, the metaphor of the horror is that behind it is the sense that we're insignificant, that like that there are just forces way beyond us. But so the quote is, "Fear and awe that we feel, cosmic horror is fear and awe that we feel when confronted by phenomena beyond our comprehension, whose scope extends the narrow field of human affairs and boasts of cosmic significance."
It's like Burke's definition of the sublime.
Yes, I was thinking about sublime too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of, I would be curious to compare the two and figure out like where the difference lay, because I bet there is one, but this notion,
I guess to no one, but I used to think of this in terms of the sublime. Yeah, absolutely. That terror that you feel of things that are just beyond your limitation.
Yeah, the horror that results in astonishment.
Yeah.
And yeah, these, and so this genre, this mode is largely an aesthetic mode. And that's not to say, that's not to shut it down as something that, as a mode that people shouldn't engage in. It's perfectly valid mode. But at the end of the day, it really is about feelings and affect, which I guess in many ways, that's what horror is about. Certainly horror movies. And then I guess what the gold standard is that when you can find that affect, or when you're able to evoke affect and to like make successful use of an aesthetic, and also to put on top of that some ideas and some thoughts and some commentary, And if that is the gold standard, then Uzumaki is gold standard, because that's precisely what it I would say it tends to do.
All right, I'm with you.
There we go. There's a quote. Right. You got anything else?
I think that like really nicely wraps it up. What you just
right.
said. I mean, there are like we could go on and talk about just the specific plot details, but I think we've covered the spirit and essence of it.
Yeah, we could easily just go page to page. Remember that fucked up thing when that guy's body turned into a fucking mush? Ugh. Yeah, man. Awesome.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.